The cold bit through my coat like it had a personal grudge. February in Milan wasn't supposed to feel like this, sharp enough to make your lungs ache, wind cutting across the Piazza del Duomo with a meanness that sent tourists scurrying into cafes. I didn't have that luxury. The marble steps of the Palazzo Orsini gleamed under spotlights, warm amber against the frozen dark, and I was stationed at the service entrance with a tray of champagne flutes that cost more than my rent. I was invisible. That was the job. White shirt, black vest, practiced smile that didn't reach my eyes because no one looked long enough to notice. The guests tonight were the kind of people who believed proximity to wealth made them wealthy. Hedge fund wives draped in borrowed jewels. Tech executives pretending their millions made them interesting. I wove through them like a ghost, collecting empty glasses, refreshing drinks, catching fragments of conversation in 4 languages, none of them acknowledging I existed. Until he did. I felt his gaze before I saw him. It was physical, a weight that pressed against the back of my neck as I bent to retrieve a discarded napkin. When I straightened, he was across the gallery, framed by a Caravaggio, and the painting might as well have been blank for all the attention anyone paid it. Dark suit, darker eyes, the kind of stillness that made everyone else look frantic. He wasn't looking at the art. He was looking at me. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I ignored it. Second buzz. Third. The gallery manager would have my head if she caught me checking personal calls during an event, but something in my chest twisted. Nana never called unless it was urgent. I slipped into the service corridor, the noise of the party muffling behind the heavy door. Pronto. Giulietta. My grandmother's voice was thin, threaded with pain. Non riesco a respirare bene. My blood turned to ice. Aspetta, aspetta, sto chiamando l'ambulanza. No, no hospital, the bills. Nana, I don't care about the bills, you can't breathe. I was switching between Italian and panic, my voice rising, when I heard the door open behind me. I spun. He stood in the corridor, the man from the gallery, close enough that I caught his scent, cedar and something sharper like cold metal. His expression hadn't changed, but his focus had intensified, dark eyes cataloging everything about me in 3 seconds flat. "Mi scusi," I managed, switching to English, my accent thick with adrenaline. "I need to." He raised one hand. Not a command, just a pause. Then he spoke, and his Italian was Florentine pure, the kind that came from generations, not classes. "Tell your grandmother to stay calm. Where is she?" My brain stuttered. Why? Address. I should have questioned it. Should have hung up, run, reported him to security. Instead, I heard myself giving him Nana's address in Lambrate, the cramped apartment above the tabaceria, while she wheezed instructions about the spare key. He pulled out his own phone, typed something with swift efficiency, then looked at me. "Dr. Marchetti will be there in 12 minutes. He'll call an ambulance if needed, but he's capable of immediate assessment and treatment." "I can't afford." "You're not being asked to." He slid his phone back into his jacket. "Return to the gallery, finish your shift. Someone will update you within the hour." "Who are you?" The corner of his mouth shifted, not quite a smile. "The man who owns the building you're working in tonight, among other things." He stepped aside, gesturing toward the gallery door. "Your grandmother needs you calm, not unemployed. Go." I went. I don't know why. Maybe because his certainty was more convincing than my panic. Maybe because I'd been powerless for so long that someone simply handling things felt like oxygen. The next 40 minutes were agony dressed in catering blacks. I smiled, I poured. I didn't drop a single glass despite my hands shaking. The man, the owner, had returned to the gallery, but I felt his awareness tracking me like a compass needle. At one point, I saw him speaking with the gallery manager, her expression shifting from obsequious to genuinely concerned as she glanced my way. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number: "Your grandmother is stable. Pneumonia early stage. Dr. M administered antibiotics, arranged follow-up. She's resting." I sagged against the wall, champagne flutes clinking dangerously. Giulietta Marcello. I looked up. He stood 2 feet away, hands in his pockets, patient as stone. How do you know my name? You're wearing a name tag. He nodded toward my vest. Fair point. Walk with me. It wasn't a question, but it wasn't quite a command either. More like an inevitability. We moved through a servant's corridor I hadn't known existed, past industrial kitchens and storage rooms, until we reached an office that smelled like leather and old paper. He closed the door, gestured to a chair. I stayed standing. I need a translator, he said, direct as a blade. Italian English, fluent in both, comfortable in high-pressure situations. You'd start tomorrow. I'm a waitress. You're a linguistic chameleon working 3 jobs to pay for your grandmother's care while finishing a degree in international relations at Bocconi. He said it like he was reading a grocery list. You're also drowning in medical debt, 2 months behind on rent and rationing meals. Tomorrow, you can continue drowning, or you can work for me. My pulse hammered. Doing what? Translating, attending meetings, ensuring clear communication in delicate negotiations. He opened a drawer, withdrew an envelope. First month's salary advanced, enough to cover your rent, your grandmother's care, and a security deposit on a better apartment. I didn't touch the envelope. What kind of negotiations? The kind that require discretion. His gaze held mine. I import and export goods, art, textiles, specialty foods. Some clients prefer privacy. You'd facilitate conversations, nothing more. That's not an answer. It's the only one you'll get tonight. He set the envelope on the desk between us. Tomorrow morning, 8 o'clock, this address. He handed me a business card, Domenico Valent Acquisitions, and an address in the Quadrilatero della Moda. Or don't come. The money's yours either way for tonight's disruption. I stared at the envelope. It was thick, too thick. Why me? Because when your world was ending, you switched languages mid-sentence without thinking about it. Because you prioritized her breathing over your job. Because you came back and finished your shift anyway. He moved toward the door, paused. And because you asked the right question. Which was? Why you? He opened the door. Most people would have just taken the money. I picked up the envelope after he left. Inside was enough cash to change everything or bury me. I couldn't tell which. Outside, the cold was waiting, but for the first time in months, I wasn't afraid of it. The address led to a building that didn't advertise. No brass plaque, no company signage, just a heavy door with a discreet intercom and a camera that tracked my approach. I dressed carefully. The one professional outfit I owned, black trousers and a cream blouse I'd steamed over the bathtub at 6 a.m. My hand hesitated over the buzzer. The door clicked open before I touched it. The lobby was marble and silence. A woman in her 50s, silver hair cut sharp as glass, assessed me from behind a minimalist desk. Ms. Marcello, 3rd floor, he's expecting you. The elevator was the kind that required a key. She handed me one made of brushed steel, no label. I inserted it, pressed 3, and watched Milan drop away through the glass panels, terracotta rooftops giving way to the glittering sprawl of the fashion district. Domenico Valent's office occupied the entire floor. Floor to ceiling windows framed the Duomo in one direction, the skyline in the other. The furniture was mid-century modern, all clean lines and hidden expense. He stood near the windows, phone to his ear, speaking rapid Mandarin. When he saw me, he ended the call with a single word and gestured to the seating area. You came. I'm here to return the money. His eyebrow rose fractionally. Why? Because I don't know what I'd be agreeing to. Smart. He sat across from me, entirely relaxed. Let me clarify. My business involves moving valuable items across borders legally but with clients who value anonymity. Art collectors avoiding publicity. Family estates settling inheritances quietly. Occasionally, individuals relocating assets for personal reasons. Nothing illegal, but everything confidential. That sounds like money laundering with extra steps. It sounds like estate planning with international complications. He leaned forward slightly. You'd translate documents, facilitate phone calls, accompany me to meetings where your presence ensures accurate communication. You'd be compensated well, receive benefits, and have access to resources, like the medical care your grandmother needs. She can't afford. I have a doctor on retainer. Part of your employment package would include comprehensive medical coverage for immediate family. He said it like he was discussing printer toner. Dr. Marchetti specializes in geriatric care. He'd manage her treatment, no cost to you. It was too much, too convenient. What's the catch? You'd be required to sign an NDA. Any breach would result in immediate termination and legal action. You'd also need to be available on short notice, evenings, occasional travel. And you'd be working closely with me, which requires a degree of trust. Trust goes both ways. Yes, he stood, moved to his desk, returned with a tablet. These are the terms, read them. If you have questions, ask. If you want a lawyer to review them, I can provide one. You have until Friday to decide. I took the tablet. The contract was 30 pages of dense legal language, but certain phrases jumped out. Non-disclosure, foreign travel, discretionary availability, performance-based bonuses, immediate family medical coverage, housing assistance if required. Housing assistance. Your current apartment is in a building scheduled for demolition. You'll need to relocate within 60 days regardless. If you work for me, I can facilitate that process. How do you know about the demolition? His smile was brief. I know a great deal about many things, Ms. Marcello. It's how I stay alive. The phrasing sent a chill through me, but before I could respond, his phone buzzed. He glanced at it, frowned. Your grandmother's building. There's been an incident, electrical fire, second floor. She's safe, but the building's being evacuated. I was on my feet before I knew I'd moved. I need to. Car's downstairs. Marco will drive you. He was already typing. I'll send someone to secure her belongings and arrange temporary accommodations. Hotel, fully covered until we sort permanent housing. I haven't agreed to anything. You don't have to, he met my eyes, but you will. The hotel was 4-star. Nana's room overlooking a courtyard garden, she kept saying, was too much. Troppo Giulietta, this is madness. I'd settled her with her medications, extra blankets, and the promise I'd return after meeting with the building management. Except there was no meeting. Marco, Domenico's driver, a silent man with careful eyes, had already handled everything. Nana's belongings were in storage, the insurance claim was filed, and a housing agent would contact me Monday with options. I sat in the hotel bar, nursing an espresso I couldn't taste, when Domenico appeared. No suit jacket tonight, just charcoal trousers and a white shirt rolled to his forearms. He looked almost human. May I? I gestured to the empty seat. He ordered scotch neat, then turned his full attention on me. It was like standing in a spotlight. You're wondering if I arranged the fire. I hadn't wanted to admit it even to myself. Did you? No, but I would have if I'd thought of it. He said it without shame. Not to harm anyone, to clarify your situation. That's insane. That's pragmatic. He sipped his scotch. You needed a reason to trust me. I needed you to understand what working for me means. Problems get solved often before you realize they exist. It's unsettling. It's also effective. You're not making a great case for yourself. I'm making an honest one. He set down his glass. I don't need employees who are comfortable. I need people who are competent, loyal, and smart enough to question me when it matters. You've demonstrated all three in 18 hours. You're assuming I'll say yes. You already have, you just haven't admitted it yet. He stood, left €200 on the bar. Friday, 8 a.m. Bring questions. I'll answer what I can. He was gone before I could argue. I sat there staring at the money at my reflection in the dark window. He was right. I'd already decided. The question was whether I'd survive the decision. By Friday, I'd read the contract 6 times and consulted a law student friend who'd paled and said, "This is either the opportunity of a lifetime or a very elegant trap." I'd also received 3 texts from Domnico, updates on Nana's housing search, a reminder about the appointment, and a single line the night before, "Bring your passport." That last one made my stomach drop. The office felt different in morning light, less fortress, more gallery. Domnico stood by a table spread with architectural plans, his sleeves already rolled up, a silver watch catching the sun. He looked up when I entered. "Good, you're here." He gestured to the plans. "Thoughts on Navigli versus Porta Romana for your grandmother? Navigli has better street access. Porta Romana has medical facilities within walking distance." "I haven't signed anything." "You're signing today, these are for after." He slid a pen across the table next to the contract. "Unless you have questions." I had 1,000. I asked the only one that mattered. "What happens if I want out?" 3 months' notice or you forfeit that month's salary. No penalties beyond that, assuming you maintain confidentiality. He met my eyes. "I'm not building a prison, Giulietta. I'm building a partnership." Partnerships imply equal footing. They imply mutual benefit. You have something I need, linguistic precision and cultural fluency. I have something you need, resources and access. The power differential is real, but so is the opportunity. He handed me the pen. "Sign or walk away. Either way, your grandmother's care continues for 6 months. That's not leverage, that's decency." I signed. My hand shook only slightly. Domnico countersigned, then slid a folder across the table. "Passport." I handed it over. He opened it, checked something, then passed it to an assistant I hadn't noticed enter. "Marco's taking you to the consulate. You'll need a business visa for Switzerland. We leave tonight." "Tonight?" "Client meeting in Lugano tomorrow morning. You'll translate, observe, say nothing unless asked." He handed me another envelope. "Advance for travel expenses plus wardrobe budget. The shops on Via Mont Napoleon will have what you need. Lara will accompany you." Lara materialized, the silver-haired woman from reception, with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Ms. Marcello, shall we?" Everything moved at velocity after that. The consulate visit was 20 minutes of paperwork and a stamp. The shopping was surreal, Lara directing me through boutiques where the assistants greeted her by name, selecting clothes I'd never have chosen, tailored trousers, silk blouses, a navy coat that felt like armor. "You represent Valent Acquisitions now," she explained. "You need to look the part." By 6 p.m., I was back at the office with 2 garment bags and a growing sense I'd signed away more than my schedule. Domnico reviewed my new wardrobe with a critical eye, nodded. "Good. Marco will collect you at 7. Pack light, 2 days, possibly 3. I need to tell Nana." "Already handled. She knows you're traveling for work. Dr. Marchetti will check on her daily." He turned to his desk, conversation apparently over. "Domnico." He glanced back, surprised. I'd never used his first name before. "Thank you for my grandmother." His expression softened just fractionally. "She raised you well, that's worth protecting." The car was a black Mercedes with diplomatic plates. Marco drove with the precision of someone who'd trained for evasive maneuvers. I sat in the back, watching Milan dissolve into highway lights, feeling like I was shedding a skin I wasn't sure I'd need again. Domnico joined me at the private aviation terminal. He changed into a navy suit, tie gone, collar open. "Nervous?" "Should I be?" "Probably." He gestured to the plane, a sleek jet with Valent barely visible on the tail. "But fear keeps you sharp. Use it." The cabin was cream leather and polished wood, the kind of wealth that didn't need to announce itself. A flight attendant offered champagne. I took water. Domnico settled across from me, opening a laptop. The client is a textile manufacturer, family business, 3 generations. They're selling their Swiss operations and relocating production to Italy. Your job is to translate the technical specifications and ensure both parties understand the warranty clauses. That sounds legitimate. It is. He didn't look up from the screen. Not everything I do exists in gray areas, Giulietta. Some of it is simply business. And the rest? Now he looked at me. The rest is why you signed an NDA. We flew in silence for a while, the Alps appearing in the distance, snow bright even in twilight. I tried to read the brief he'd given me, technical documents about fabric weights and production quotas, but my attention kept drifting to Domenico. He worked with absolute focus, fingers moving across the keyboard in bursts, pausing to make notes in a leather journal. Twice, his phone rang. Both times he answered in languages I didn't recognize, conversations brief and conclusive. "You speak Mandarin," I said when he finished the second call. "And Russian, German, French, passable Arabic." He closed the laptop. "Languages are keys. Each one opens different doors." "Is that why you wanted me? More keys?" "I wanted you because you switched languages mid-crisis without losing coherence. That's instinct, not training." He leaned back. "Also, you have an honest face. People trust you. That's useful." "You mean manipulable?" "I mean valuable." His gaze was steady. "I won't lie to you about what I do, Giulietta, but I also won't explain it all at once. You'll see enough to decide if you can live with it. If you can't, we part professionally. If you can," he let the sentence hang. "Then what?" "Then you become indispensable, and I protect what's indispensable to me." The way he said it, flat, factual, sent a current through me. Not fear exactly, something more complicated. We landed in Lugano just after 9. The city was dark lace against the lake, lights reflecting in water like scattered diamonds. A car waited on the tarmac, another Mercedes, this one driven by a woman who greeted Domenico in German and ignored me entirely. The hotel was discreet luxury, the kind where the staff recognized you but never acknowledged it. Domenico checked us in with minimal conversation, then handed me a key card. "6th floor, room 604. Tomorrow, breakfast at 7, meeting at 9. Dress professionally but not aggressively. We're guests, not conquerors." "What's your room number?" "Across the hall, 605. He started toward the elevator, paused. "If you need anything tonight, call the concierge. They're instructed to accommodate any request." "Anything?" "Anything reasonable." A ghost of a smile. "Try to sleep, tomorrow matters." I didn't sleep. I lay in the king-sized bed, staring at the ceiling, trying to process the 72 hours that had taken me from serving champagne to flying private jets. Nana's voice echoed in my head. "Giulietta, si qualcosa sembra troppo buono per essere vero," if something seems too good to be true. But what if it wasn't? What if this was just the world working differently for people with resources? Domenico moved through life like friction didn't apply to him. Problems dissolved, doors opened, people rearranged themselves to accommodate his trajectory. And now I was in that slipstream, carried along by momentum I didn't fully understand. At 6, I gave up on sleep and showered, dressing in the clothes Lara had selected. Charcoal trousers, ivory blouse, the navy coat. I looked like someone who belonged in rooms where decisions worth millions happened. I looked like I wasn't drowning. Domenico was already in the hotel restaurant, reading a newspaper, espresso steaming at his elbow. He glanced up, assessed me in 2 seconds, nodded. "Good, sit." Breakfast was efficient, coffee, pastries, a brief on the morning's meeting. The client was nervous about Italy's labor laws. I'd need to reassure without promising. Questions would focus on production timelines. Domenico would handle numbers, I'd handle nuance. And if they ask about our other business, redirect, "We're here for textiles, nothing more." The meeting was in a villa overlooking the lake. The clients were exactly as briefed, second-generation owners, anxious about legacy, suspicious of outsiders. I translated with precision, smoothing Domniko's directness into something warmer, turning their concerns into questions he could answer. 2 hours in, the tension broke. We shook hands. Domniko signed documents I barely understood. In the car back to the hotel, he made a call in German, then turned to me. "Well done. You made them trust me." I just translated. "You translated intention, not just words. That's art, not mechanics." He handed me an envelope thicker than the last. "Bonus. You earned it." I didn't open it. What happens now? "Now we wait for the contracts to clear, then return to Milan." He checked his watch. "We have 6 hours before the flight. Marco will take you anywhere you'd like in Lugano." "Where will you be?" "Handling things you don't need to see yet." He met my eyes. "Trust takes time, Giulietta. Don't rush it." Marco drove me through Lugano's winding streets, past churches and chocolate shops, the lake always visible, always glittering. We stopped at a cafe where the barista knew Marco by name, served us coffee and pastries without asking what we wanted. I ate slowly, watching people live their ordinary lives, wondering when mine had stopped being ordinary. "How long have you worked for him?" I asked Marco. 8 years. "Do you ever question what he does?" Marco stirred his espresso. "Every day. Then I remember what life was before and I stop questioning." "What was before?" He didn't answer, just finished his coffee and stood. "We should return." Domniko was in the hotel bar, deep in conversation with a man I hadn't seen before, older, gray-haired, expensive suit. They spoke Italian, but the dialect was Calabrian, harsh and fast. The man's hands moved aggressively. Domniko's stayed still. I hung back, but Domniko saw me, made a subtle gesture. "Wait." 5 minutes later, the man left. Domniko approached, his expression unreadable. "Change of plans, we're staying another night." "Why?" "That man represents complications. I need to address them before we return to Milan." He guided me toward the elevator. "Your room is paid through tomorrow. Order anything you need. Don't leave the hotel." "Am I in danger?" "No, but I need to ensure you stay that way." In the elevator, he pressed both our floors. When the doors opened on 6, he walked me to my room, checked inside, closet, bathroom, balcony, then returned to the doorway. "Lock this. Don't open it unless you hear my voice." "Domniko." "Tomorrow I'll explain what I can." He hesitated then. "You're doing well, Giulietta, better than I expected." The compliment shouldn't have warmed me. It did anyway. I woke to my phone buzzing. 3 a.m. unknown number. I almost didn't answer. "Ms. Marcello." A woman's voice, crisp. "Don't be alarmed, this is Lara. Mr. Valent has been detained. He's safe, but you need to follow instructions exactly. Pack your belongings. Marco will collect you in 15 minutes. You'll return to Milan immediately." "Detained by who?" "Financial police. A misunderstanding already being resolved, but you need to leave Switzerland now. Your visa status is delicate." I dressed with shaking hands, threw everything into my suitcase. Marco arrived at 3:17, grim-faced. Quickly. The drive to the airport was tense silence. We bypassed customs through a private gate, boarded a smaller jet. I was in the air before I could process what was happening, Milan approaching in the gray pre-dawn. Lara met me at the terminal. "Your grandmother is fine. You're not in any trouble. Mr. Valent will contact you when he's able." "What happened?" "Business." She said it like a door closing. "Marco will take you home." Except I didn't have a home. The hotel where Nana was staying, yes, but home, that had burned, literally. I spent the day in Nana's hotel room, pretending everything was fine, dodging her questions. She knew something was wrong. Grandmothers always know. But I couldn't explain what I didn't understand. By evening, I was exhausted from maintaining the performance. My phone rang at 8. Domniko. "Are you safe?" His voice was rough, tired. "Yes, are you?" I'm in Milan. I'll be at your hotel in 30 minutes. We need to talk. He arrived exactly on time, looking like he hadn't slept. We walked to a nearby park, neutral ground, and sat on a cold bench under bare trees. The man in Lugano, he began. He's a competitor. He believes I've encroached on his territory. He's not entirely wrong. And the police. He reported some irregularities in my Swiss accounts. They were resolved, but it was a message. He turned to me. This is the part where you decide if you can handle what I actually do, Giulietta. Tell me. I move things across borders. Art, antiquities, occasionally documents or assets that people need relocated discreetly. Most of it is legal. Some exists in gray areas, not illegal but not transparent. And yes, some clients are connected to organizations that operate outside traditional structures. You mean organized crime? I mean people who have found alternative power structures. He met my eyes. I don't hurt people. I don't traffic in anything that causes direct harm, but I do facilitate transactions that circumvent official channels. That makes me valuable, and it makes me a target. And me. You're protected, but associating with me means accepting risk. He leaned forward. I can release you from the contract. No penalties, no questions. Your grandmother's care continues, your housing is secured. You walk away clean. I should have taken it, should have run. I want to stay. His expression flickered, surprise, relief, something darker. Why? Because for the first time in my life I'm not invisible. Because you kept your promises about my grandmother. Because I hesitated. Because I think you're trying to be honest with me, even when it costs you. He studied me for a long moment. Then, tomorrow we start training you properly. Security protocols, communication methods, how to recognize threats. If you're staying informed. And the man from Lugano. Being handled, he stood, offered his hand. Come, I'll take you back. His palm was warm, grip firm. I didn't let go immediately. Training meant learning to see patterns. Who entered rooms first, which exits stayed clear, how Domnico positioned himself to control sightlines. It meant memorizing protocols, code words, emergency contacts, the difference between a strategic retreat and actual danger. It meant understanding that the elegant world I'd glimpsed was built on calculations I was only beginning to perceive. It also meant being close to Domnico constantly. His office became my workspace, his schedule my blueprint. I attended meetings where I translated conversations layered with subtext, art sales that were asset transfers, shipping manifests that mapped influence rather than cargo. I learned to recognize when someone was probing for weakness, when a question was a threat. And I learned that Domnico's reputation was his primary weapon. People moved for him not out of fear, but because crossing him meant losing access to what he provided: discretion, efficiency, connections. He was a facilitator in a world where official channels failed those with complicated needs. One evening, 3 weeks into my employment, he asked me to stay late. The office was empty, Milan glittering below, and he poured 2 glasses of wine without asking if I wanted one. You've done well, he said, handing me a glass. Better than well, you're ready for the next level. Which is? A gala in Como, cultural event, lots of visibility. You'll accompany me, translate as needed but mostly observe. Several people I do business with will be there, and several who'd like to see me fail. Is that safe? Safe is relative, but yes, the event itself is secure. He sipped his wine. I need you to look the part. Lara will take you shopping tomorrow, something elegant but understated. You'll represent me. The weight of that settled over me. Represent you how? As my associate, my translator, he paused, the woman I trust. The air shifted. I'd felt it building, the awareness between us, the way his hand found my lower back when guiding me through crowds, how his attention tracked me even in rooms full of people. But he'd never acknowledged it. Neither had I. Is that all I am? For now, he set down his glass. Ask me again when you've seen what Como brings. The gala was in a Renaissance villa overlooking Lake Como, terraces spilling into gardens, the water beyond reflecting the moon. I wore a gown Lara had selected, deep emerald silk that caught light like water, and felt like an imposter, until Domenico saw me. He stopped mid-conversation, eyes tracking from my face to the gown and back. "Cristo," he murmured, then louder, "you'll be fighting off attention all night. That's your job, isn't it?" His smile was brief. It is now. The evening was performance. I translated conversations about Renaissance bronzes and Baroque paintings, smiled at collectors who looked through me even as they required my voice. Domenico introduced me as his linguistic specialist, which sounded both professional and vaguely suggestive. I caught fragments of Italian that weren't meant for translation, comments about power shifts, territorial disputes, someone named Rinaldi making moves. At midnight, we stepped onto a terrace for air. Domenico lit a cigarette. I hadn't known he smoked, and exhaled slowly. "You're handling this well." "I'm terrified." "Good, you should be." He offered me the cigarette. I shook my head. "Rinaldi is here, the man from Lugano. He's going to approach, test boundaries. Whatever he says, I'll handle it. You just smile. And if he doesn't stop at words, then Marco will handle it." He nodded toward the gardens where Marco stood, watchful. "I told you, you're protected." Rinaldi appeared 5 minutes later, silver-haired, elegant suit, predator's smile. He spoke to Domenico in Calabrian dialect, fast and aggressive, but I caught enough. Territory, respect the girl. Domenico's response was measured. "Lei non è grave in discussion." She's not up for discussion. Rinaldi's eyes slid to me, calculating. Then he said in English, accent thick, "Pretty thing for pretty work, Domenico? But does she know what she's translating?" "She knows enough." Domenico's hand found my back, proprietary. "And she's under my protection. Everyone here understands what that means. Even you have limits." "Test them then." Domenico's voice dropped to something cold. "See what happens." Rinaldi held his gaze for 3 beats, then smiled. "Enjoy the evening." He walked away, but the threat lingered. I waited until he was gone. "What just happened?" "He tried to suggest you were a liability, a weakness he could exploit." Domenico turned to me. "I clarified that you're not." "By claiming me." "By protecting you." He stepped closer. "There's a difference." "Is there?" We were too close now, the terrace empty, Como glittering below. His hand still rested at my back, warm through silk. I could feel his breath, cedar and wine. "Giulietta," my name was a question. I answered by not moving away. He kissed me, soft at first, testing, then deeper when I responded. His hand slid to my waist, pulling me closer, and for a moment the world reduced to warmth and want and the taste of smoke and red wine. Then I pulled back, not far but enough. "We shouldn't." "No," he agreed, "we shouldn't," but he didn't release me, tell me to stop. "Tomorrow," I whispered, "ask me tomorrow." Tomorrow came with clarity I didn't want. I woke in my apartment, the new one, a clean modern space near Porta Romana that Domenico had arranged, and acknowledged what I'd been avoiding. I was falling for a man whose world I barely understood, whose protection came with strings I was only beginning to see. At the office, Domenico acted as though Como hadn't happened. Professional, distant, focused on work. I mirrored him, maintaining the boundary, but the awareness was there, humming beneath every interaction. At lunch, Lara cornered me in the break room. A word. She'd never sought me out before. I followed her to an empty conference room. "Como was a test," she said without preamble. "Rinaldi was assessing whether your leverage or partnership. Domenico's response clarified things, but now you're visible. That brings risk. I didn't ask for protection. You accepted it the moment you signed that contract." She leaned against the table. I've worked for Domnico for 12 years. I've seen him make room for people before. It never ends well. The world he operates in doesn't allow for vulnerabilities. Then why does he keep creating them? Because he's brilliant but not immune. And right now, you're his vulnerability. She straightened. I'm telling you this not to scare you, but to prepare you. If you stay, there will be a moment when someone tries to use you against him. You need to decide now if you can handle that. And if I can't, then leave before it costs him. She opened the door, or costs you. I spent the afternoon researching Rinaldi. What I found was fragments, family ties to Calabrian organizations, business interests that fronted other interests, a reputation for patience and brutality. He wasn't someone to ignore. At 6, Domnico appeared in my doorway. Come with me. We drove to a hospice in Monza, clean and quiet, smelling of antiseptic and roses. He led me to a room where Nana sat in a recliner, IV in her arm, looking small and tired. She brightened when she saw us. Giulietta, and Mr. Valent you shouldn't have. Signora Marcello, Domnico bent, kissed her hand. How are you feeling? They spoke in Italian while I stood frozen. I hadn't known Nana was in hospice. I'd thought the pneumonia was managed, that she was recovering. Domnico touched my arm. Dr. Marchetti discovered complications. The pneumonia stressed her heart. She's stable, but she needs monitoring. Why didn't you tell me? I'm telling you now. His voice was gentle. She didn't want you distracted from work. I wanted to scream, cry, throw something. Instead, I sat beside Nana, taking her hand. I'm not going anywhere. Silly girl, you have work. Work can wait. No, Domnico said quietly. It can't, but I can arrange for you to work remotely for a few days. Stay with her. Over the next week, I lived in that hospice room. Domnico sent meals, comfortable chairs, books, everything I needed. He visited twice, never staying long, always bringing something, flowers, Nana's favorite pastries, a soft blanket. He didn't try to kiss me again. Didn't push. One evening, when Nana was sleeping, he sat beside me. I need to tell you something. His tone made my chest tight. What? Your grandmother knew my father, years ago when she lived in Reggio Calabria. He pulled out a photograph, black and white, 2 young men in suits. One was older, stern. The other, my father helped her family immigrate, arranged paperwork, transportation, housing in Milan. He considered it a debt owed to her father who'd helped him once. Why are you telling me this? Because Nana asked me to. She wanted you to know that what I'm doing for her isn't charity or leverage. It's completing something my father started, honoring an old debt. I stared at the photograph. Does this change anything? It should, he met my eyes, but it doesn't, does it? No, I admitted, it doesn't. He left shortly after. I stayed with Nana, holding her hand, understanding for the first time that the threads connecting me to Domnico were older and more complex than I'd imagined, and that walking away wasn't as simple as signing a resignation. Nana improved, not recovered. Dr. Marchetti was clear that her heart was failing, that we were buying time, not revering damage, but improved enough to return to her apartment. Domnico had arranged for round-the-clock care, a nurse Nana liked, modifications to make everything accessible. I returned to the office feeling hollowed out and grateful. Domnico greeted me with work, a backlog of translations, upcoming meetings, normality, except nothing felt normal. The kiss hung between us, unacknowledged. The debt his father had owed my family created a foundation I didn't know how to stand on. 2 weeks after Nana's discharge, Domnico asked me to accompany him to dinner. Not business, just dinner. We went to a small trattoria in Briera. No reservations needed because the owner greeted Domnico like family. We sat in a back corner, ordered without menus, and for the first time, talked about things that didn't involve work. Why Milan? I asked. Your accent is Florentine, but you're based here. Because Milan is neutral ground. No family territory, no old obligations. I can build something clean here. He sipped wine. Or as clean as anything gets in my world. Do you regret it? The work, he considered. No, but I regret what it costs, the distance it creates, the impossibility of normal things. Like, like dinner with someone I care about without calculating who's watching. My breath caught. Domnico. I'm not asking for anything, he interrupted. I just needed you to know. We finished dinner in careful conversation, and he drove me home himself. At my door, he walked me up, waited while I unlocked it. Thank you for tonight. For letting me buy you dinner. For choosing to stay. I stepped closer. In Milan, in the job, in this. He exhaled slowly. Giulietta, if I kiss you again, I won't stop at kissing. I know. And you still. I answered by pulling him inside. Morning came with coffee and consequences. Domnico was already awake, dressed, phone to his ear when I emerged from the bedroom. He ended the call, looked at me with an expression I couldn't read. Regrets. Several, I admitted, but not about you. He crossed the room, pulled me close. We can't do this halfway. Either we keep this separate from work or we acknowledge it changes everything. What do you want? I want you safe. I want you informed. I want you to have the choice I never had, to walk into this world knowing what it costs. He kissed my forehead. I want you to choose me anyway. I already did last night. Last night was personal, this is bigger. He stepped back. Rinaldi is escalating. There's going to be a confrontation, possibly public. If you're with me, truly with me, you'll be part of that, a target. Then teach me to be a harder target. He smiled, brief and fierce. I'll teach you to be dangerous. The next month was education. I learned to read body language, identify threats, carry myself with the confidence of someone under protection. Marco taught me basic self-defense. Lara showed me how to blend into different social contexts. And Domnico taught me the architecture of his world. Who owed whom, which debts were currency, where power actually lived versus where it pretended to live. We kept our relationship private, but people noticed anyway. The way his hand lingered, how he positioned himself between me and doors, the quiet fury when someone spoke to me disrespectfully. It was announced without announcement. And Rinaldi noticed. The confrontation came at an art gallery opening in Milan, ostensibly neutral ground, full of witnesses. Rinaldi approached with two men I didn't recognize, blocking our path. Domnico, and the translator, she's looking well. Signor Rinaldi, my voice was cool, how kind of you to notice. His smile was serpentine. I've been meaning to ask, does she know what you did to the Bersi family, how you acquired their distribution network? Domnico's expression didn't change. Careful. Or what? You'll protect her the way you protected your last associate, the one who ended up testifying against you. That associate betrayed a confidence. Giulietta won't. Domnico's voice dropped. Because she's not stupid enough to believe you're offering a better deal. Maybe I'm offering honesty. Does she know about Zurich, the accounts, the... Enough. Domnico moved, quick as a blade, hand on Rinaldi's chest. Not aggressive, just present. You want to test me, do it through proper channels. Leave her out of it. She's already in it, you put her there. Rinaldi stepped back, hands raised. I'm just clarifying terms. Security appeared, gallery staff or Domnico's people, I couldn't tell. Rinaldi retreated with a final smile. Think about it, signorina. What you don't know might be worse than what you do. We left immediately. In the car, Domnico was silent, jaw tight. Marco drove with extra caution, taking routes that doubled back, checking mirrors. When we finally reached my apartment, Domnico walked me up, checked every room, then sat on the couch, head in his hands. I should end this, he said. Release you from the contract, arrange relocation for you and your grandmother, let you start clean. Is that what you want? No, he looked up, but it's what I should do. I sat beside him. Tell me about Zurich. He flinched. You don't want to know. If Rinaldi can use it against you, I need to know. He exhaled, long and tired. 3 years ago, I helped a client move assets out of Zurich, money tied to a political corruption case. The client was guilty, but so was everyone else involved. I facilitated the transfer. The client kept his fortune. The politicians went to prison. That's money laundering. That's selective justice. He met my eyes. I didn't invent the system, Giulietta. I just know how to navigate it. And the Bersi family. They controlled distribution for certain goods in northern Italy. They also abused that power, extortion, violence against small businesses. I offered those businesses protection, negotiated a transfer of operations. The Bersis were encouraged to retire. Encouraged how? Leverage, evidence of activities their own organization wouldn't tolerate. I gave them an exit that let them keep their lives and dignity. His voice hardened. I don't hurt people unnecessarily, but I remove obstacles. I process this. Is Rinaldi an obstacle? He's becoming one. Then remove him. Domenico's laugh was bitter. It's not that simple. He has connections, protection. Moving against him directly would start a war I can't win. Then move against him indirectly. I stood, packing. He's probing for weakness, right? Give him false information. Make him think I'm vulnerable, that I don't know things. Let him commit to a move based on bad intelligence. That puts you at risk. I'm already at risk. At least this way I'm useful. I faced him. I'm not a victim, Domenico. Stop treating me like one. He studied me for a long moment. Then, you're sure? No, but I'm in this. Let's control the terms. The plan took 2 weeks to build. I'd continue as normal work, translations, public appearances with Domenico. But I'd also plant information. Conversations in public spaces where Rinaldi's people might overhear, careful mistakes that suggested I didn't know about Zurich or the Bersis, moments of apparent naivete. Meanwhile, Lara and Marco worked other angles, investigating Rinaldi's businesses, identifying regulatory vulnerabilities, building a case that could be delivered to the right authorities without fingerprints. And Domenico watched me navigate it all with something like pride and fear mixed together. You're good at this, he said one evening, reviewing my performance at a lunch meeting. Too good, you're making me nervous. Because you can't protect me from myself. Because I don't know if you're doing this for the job or for me. Does it matter? Yes, he pulled me close. If you're doing this for me, it means you're compromised. If you're doing it for the job, it means you're dangerous. I'm not sure which terrifies me more. Maybe both, I whispered. Maybe that's the point. The trap closed on a Thursday. Rinaldi approached me outside the office, stupid, aggressive, proof he'd swallowed the bait. Ms. Marcello, a word. Marco was 30 feet away, watching. I didn't signal for help. Signor Rinaldi, what can I do for you? You can leave Domenico. I can offer better terms, more money, less risk, cleaner work. He stepped closer. And protection from what's coming. What's coming? Questions about Zurich, about distribution networks, about a man who's built an empire on other people's secrets. His smile was cold. You seem like a smart girl, smart enough to know when a ship is sinking. I'll think about it, I said, knowing he'd take it as weakness. Don't think too long. He handed me a business card. Call me when you're ready to be honest about what you want. I watched him walk away, then turned to Marco. Did you get it? He tapped his earbud. Every word. And the transfer. He paid 3 separate bribes this morning to sources inside regulatory agencies. All documented. Good, I headed into the building. Let's bury him. The authorities received an anonymous tip Friday evening. Evidence of systematic bribery, regulatory manipulation, and financial fraud committed by Rinaldi's organization. The documentation was airtight, bank records, recorded conversations, email chains. By Monday, financial police were executing warrants. Rinaldi disappeared, not dead, just irrelevant. His organization collapsed, assets frozen, associates scattered. The messages were clear: touch Valent, face consequences. Threaten his people, lose everything. And I'd helped make it happen. Domenico found me on the office terrace, watching the sunset. "How do you feel?" "Powerful," I admitted, "and a little sick." "Good. The day it stops making you sick is the day you're too far in." He joined me at the railing. "Rinaldi's gone. His people won't try again, but others will notice what happened. They'll know you're not just my translator." "What am I then?" "My partner," he said it simply. "In work, in risk, in whatever comes next." "Is that what you want?" "It's what we've built." He took my hand. "But I need to know you chose this. Not because of your grandmother's care or the salary or the apartment. Because you want this life, consequences included." I looked at him, this complicated, brilliant, dangerous man who'd reordered my world. "I want this life. I want you, even knowing what it costs." He kissed me, deep and claiming, Milano glowing beneath us like a promise. 3 months later, Nana passed quietly in her sleep, Dr. Marchetti at her bedside. The funeral was small: me, Domenico, Marco, Lara, a handful of neighbors. We buried her in Lambrate, near the apartment where she'd raised me, under trees that bloomed in spring. At the graveside, Domenico held my hand while I cried. Later, at the reception, he made sure everyone ate, that Nana's friends felt welcomed, that her memory was honored properly. He did it without fanfare, just quiet competence. That night in my apartment, I found an envelope on the counter. Inside, property documents for the Lambrate apartment building. Deed in my name, debt cleared, renovations funded. "She wanted you to have roots," Domenico said from the doorway. "Something permanent. I made sure it happened." "You didn't have to." "I did," he crossed the room. "She saved my father once. I saved her granddaughter. That makes us even." He cupped my face. "Everything from here forward is choice, not debt." "Then I choose you." "Even knowing what I am." "Because of what you are and what we could be." I leaned into his touch. "Build something with me, Domenico, not just safety or power, something worth protecting." His smile was small, real. "I already am." 2 years later, I stood in Domenico's office. Our office now, the space reconfigured to accommodate 2 desks, 2 perspectives, shared work. The view hadn't changed. Milan stretching below, Alps in the distance, possibility everywhere. Valent acquisitions had evolved. We still facilitated discrete transactions, but the criminal edges had softened. Legitimate consulting, legal asset management, transparent operations fronting for the less transparent work we did for clients who needed privacy without law-breaking. It wasn't clean, but it was cleaner. And I'd become essential, not as decoration or weakness, but as architect. I built the systems, identified risks, negotiated boundaries. Domenico brought vision, I brought structure. Together, we'd created something neither could achieve alone. "Signora Valent." Lara appeared in the doorway, smiling. She'd stopped fighting our relationship a year ago, when it became clear I wasn't leaving and wasn't a liability. "The Andriotti contract is ready for your review." "Signora Valent." We'd married quietly, just paperwork and witnesses, no ceremony. But the ring on my finger was real, a simple band that matched Domenico's, symbol of choice maintained daily. "Thank you, Lara." I accepted the folder, glanced at Domenico. "Ready." He looked up from his laptop, dark eyes warm. "Always." We worked through the afternoon, 2 minds moving in practice coordination. Outside, Milan lived its complicated life, deals and dangers, ambitions and compromises, the machinery of power turning invisibly. And inside, in our chosen fortress, we built something fragile and fierce. Partnership earned, trust tested, love that existed not despite the darkness but with full awareness of it. That night driving home through familiar streets, Domenico reached for my hand. Regrets? Not today. I laced our fingers together. Ask me tomorrow. I will. His smile was brief, private, every tomorrow. The city glittered around us, cold and bright in hours. I'd started as invisible, a waitress serving people who never saw her. Now I was seen, known, chosen, not rescued, transformed. And the transformation had been mine all along.